What if the Sasquatch isn't an ancient, primal beast, but a 20th century Cold War experiment gone wrong? Newly unearthed footage and a ranger report from Rocky Mountain National Park hint at something unnatural, perhaps even artificial, stirring in the woods, just miles from a Cold War testing site. Welcome to Parks Unseen. I'm your host, Liam Wolf. Tonight, we unlock another hidden chapter from the lost archives of the National Park Service, an incident long buried from the public eye. This report suggests that during the height of Cold War paranoia, something terrible may have been created in secret, something not entirely human. And after all these years, it may still be out there, stalking the forests, a living remnant of a failed experiment. Date: August 22, 1979. Case ID number 153. Location: Rocky Mountain National Park. Time: 8 a.m. Reporting Officer: Ranger A. Hawthorne. Incident Report Summary. A group of cyclists wandered off trail into the Cowanich Valley and encountered a towering ape-like creature bearing both human and animal characteristics. Details of the encounter. At approximately 7 p.m. last night, 3 distressed cyclists approached my partner and me while we were on routine patrol, claiming they had been chased by an unknown creature. They had visible injuries, cuts and gashes likely sustained while fleeing through the dense forest. One of them had abandoned his bike during their escape. The men, still visibly shaken, recounted their experience. Their journey had begun as a simple wildlife observation and photography trip along the Coyote Valley Trail near Grand Lake. Following a herd of elk, their curiosity led them off the marked path and deeper into the Cowanich Valley. As they ventured further, the environment began to change. According to them, the usual forest sounds faded into an eerie silence. Then came the smell, a nauseating mix of decay, wet fur, and something chemical. They described it as smelling worse than any animal carcass they'd ever come across. The cyclists stumbled into a clearing where they encountered a grisly scene: carcasses of elk and deer, torn apart and scattered. At first, they thought it was the work of a mountain lion, but the wounds didn't match. Deep puncture marks pierced the bodies, and one elk had its entire chest caved in. Moments later, a deep howl echoed through the valley. They went further into the clearing, then spotted it. A massive figure covered in matted hair, crouched over a fresh kill. The creature was unlike anything they had seen. Its limbs were freakishly long, and while its face was almost human, there was something deeply wrong with it, something unnatural. Before panic fully set in, one of the men reached for his Polaroid strapped to his chest. With shaking hands, he took a photograph. The sound of the camera mechanism startled the creature, and it bolted upright, towering at nearly 10 feet tall. When it began to move toward them, fear took over. They scrambled onto their bikes and fled. One of them crashed, abandoning the bike and clinging to a friend as they tore through the forest. They didn't stop until they reached patrol headquarters. I've heard my share of tall tales in these woods, but their terror, that was real, and protocol is protocol. While my partner escorted them back to the lodge, I followed their trail to recover the abandoned bike. By the time I reached the valley, the sun had slipped behind the mountains, leaving the forest covered in shadows. I followed the faint bike tracks to the crash site, but when I arrived, the bike was gone. As I scanned the underbrush for any tire tracks or signs of dragged metal, I discovered a Polaroid photo on the ground, crumpled and dirt-spattered. Presumably the photo taken just before the creature gave chase. I could barely make out the image, a tall shadow with eyes gleaming from the camera flash. That photo is enclosed as Exhibit A. The deeper I went, the stranger things became. The forest was deathly quiet. I passed broken branches nearly 10 feet off the ground, too high for any known predator. The air grew heavy, permeated by an odor that was almost chemical, just like the cyclists had described. And then I found the clearing. The carcasses were still there, mangled deer, shattered elk bones. But the wounds were what disturbed me the most. No teeth marks, no signs of scavenging, just those deep, crushing punctures like something with impossible strength had pierced through muscle and bone. The odor also got worse. It felt so toxic it stung my eyes and clung to the back of my throat. Upon closer inspection, I discovered tracks, unlike any I had seen before. They resembled footprints, about 18 inches long with 5 distinct toes. The impressions were deep. Whatever made them was heavy. They trailed in 2 directions, one leading back toward the Coyote Valley Trail, the path the cyclists took, and the other deeper into the woods. But that wasn't all I found. At the edge of the clearing, I spotted movement, and when my light caught it, I froze. The creature was there, standing at the tree line. In one hand, it held the missing bike, as if examining it, its fingers curled around the metal frame. Animals typically don't collect objects, but whatever this thing was, it did. And the way it looked at the bike, it wasn't just instinct, it was curiosity. Beyond its primal and feral look, I swear it had some form of human-like awareness. I backed out slowly, praying I wouldn't draw its attention. When I was out of the clearing, I bolted. I recommend the closure of the Kawuniche Valley and its surrounding areas, including the Coyote Valley Trail, until a thorough investigation can be conducted, due to concerns over unidentified wildlife activity and public safety risks. This report is submitted for official documentation by Forest Ranger A. Hawthorne of Rocky Mountain National Park. Attached with Ranger Hawthorne's report was a single Polaroid photo, the one he recovered from the bike crash site. It has faded slightly with age, but serves as unsettling evidence of the incident that day. The photo paints a chilling picture, one that suggests the creature encountered that day was no ordinary animal. Holding this photograph in my hands, I couldn't shake the same sense of dread described in Ranger Hawthorne's report. This wasn't just another Bigfoot hoax. The scale, the intelligence. A theory began to take shape in my mind that I just couldn't shake. That whatever that thing was, perhaps it wasn't simply born in the wild, but created by humans before going rogue. In fact, we discovered that after Ranger Hawthorne filed his report, federal agents arrived within hours, assumed control of the site, and not only restricted access to visitors, but to park staff and personnel. A highly unusual occurrence, and somewhat suspicious if you ask me. To verify the legitimacy of the photo, I consulted independent experts specializing in historical media. After extensive analysis, they were able to confirm that the film stock matches the Polaroid SX70 format used during the late 1970s, and the dirt samples taken from the surface of the print are consistent with that of the Coyote Valley Trail. There is no evidence of tampering or post-processing. It's simply been stashed away in a box in a dark corner of the NPS archives for the last 45 years. The creature's height, estimated at nearly 10 feet when standing, surpasses that of any documented predator in the region. Even the largest brown bears, which can reach heights of up to 9 feet when fully upright, possess significantly more robust limbs and a rounded shoulder profile. This is a sharp contrast with the lean frame and elongated limbs described in Ranger Hawthorne's report. Its posture mirrors feeding behaviors observed in known primates. Primatologists note that great apes often adopt a crouched stance when consuming prey, rising only when disturbed. However, the creature's notable size and limb proportions suggest the possibility of an unidentified hominid with adaptations for both strength and precision. An unsettling deviation from any known animal physiology, the presence of the Rocky Flats plant in Colorado, a former Cold War nuclear facility operational from 1952 to 1989, raises additional questions. Located approximately 50 miles from the park, the plant was involved in classified research related to plutonium-based weaponry. While there is no direct evidence linking these experiments to the observed creature, the unusual physical traits documented, paired with the site's historical context, warrant further investigation. Could there have been unintended consequences to the experiments that went on there? I wonder. Collectively, these observations and expert insights point toward the presence of a creature not yet recognized by science, exhibiting physical attributes and behaviors distinct from any known animal. Despite the official narrative that the 1979 park closure was due to unidentified wildlife activity and public safety risks, internal National Park Service records suggest a different story. Ranger Hawthorne's report provides clear evidence of a dangerous unknown predator, precisely the type that would justify the swift arrival of federal agents, who assumed control of the site within hours of his filing. Former park employees, speaking under anonymity, recall that after the Kawaniche Valley closure, entire sections of the park's archives, particularly those documenting animal attacks and unidentified wildlife from the late 1970s, were sealed or heavily redacted. Why did federal agents take a supposed wildlife activity case out of the Park Service's hands? During the Cold War, the United States faced intense global pressure, and declassified documents reveal a government willing to push ethical boundaries in the name of victory. From domestic surveillance to mind control studies to human experimentation, what else were they capable of? The Cold War-era government was no stranger to controversial covert programs. Take Operation Paperclip, for example. Under this initiative, Nazi scientists were secretly brought to American soil to aid in advanced research from 1945 to 1962. Some of these scientists were known to conduct genetic experiments. Is it possible that some of these scientists were stationed in the Rocky Flats plant, a nuclear facility active until the late 1980s, to assist in classified research? In Ranger Hawthorne's report, the hikers described the creature they encountered as ape-like, with both human and animal characteristics. Could this be the result of post-war genetic experimentation in the facility? Imagine a program designed to push the boundaries of human biology, genetic manipulation aimed at creating stronger, more resilient beings. The Cold War was an age of scientific ambition and ethical gray areas. Genetic manipulation was in its infancy, but technologies like radiation exposure and cross-species experimentation were explored during this period, in the name of national security, of course. Don't you think radiation exposure, advanced hormonal treatments, and cross-species DNA splicing could have produced unintended consequences? I sure do. What if one of these experiments escaped into the wild, where it evolved in isolation, becoming the creature we now call Bigfoot? What do you think? If the post-World War II government was capable of programs like MK Ultra and Operation Paperclip, could they also have conducted genetic hybrid experiments crossing primate DNA with human DNA? Share your theories in the comments below. As part of my own research, I visited the site where the Rocky Flats plant once stood. After decades of manufacturing nuclear weapon parts, the facility was decommissioned due to severe environmental concerns. Today, the site is known as the Rocky Flats National Wildlife Refuge, following a lengthy cleanup process. Most of the buildings have been demolished, but the area remains a quiet, eerie reminder of its classified past. a past that may hold more secrets than the public was ever meant to know. While some underground contamination remains, the site is considered largely safe and is monitored by regulatory agencies. Throughout its operation, Rocky Flats was a hotspot for controversy. Thousands of leaking barrels seep toxic waste into the soil and water reservoirs, contaminating regions far beyond the plant itself. Two catastrophic fires, one in 1957 and another in 1969, released plutonium particles into the air, exposing the surrounding environment to dangerous levels of radiation. The 1957 fire remained secret until independent researchers at the University of Colorado detected radiation levels near the plant that exceeded those recorded in Nagasaki after the atomic bomb. And despite the gravity of the 1969 fire, at the time the most expensive industrial accident in U.S. history, the public was barely informed. Could these disasters have unleashed something else? Perhaps something that fled to the more remote wilderness, places like Kawaniche Valley and Rocky Mountain National Park. Then, on June 6, 1989, FBI agents in plain clothes entered the Rocky Flats facility to investigate the plant's illegal disposal of nuclear waste.
The Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into operations at the Rocky Flats nuclear weapons plant.
FBI agents are at the flats right now investigating the possibility that Rocky Flats covered up potentially deadly pollution and then lied about it.
It was the first time in U.S. history that one government agency raided another. But what if they found more than what they told the public? What if the fires and secret burnings were cover-ups for something that the FBI thought the world wasn't ready to face? Something still hiding in the forest today. Ranger Hawthorne's 1979 incident report describes the unidentified creature as having a noxious odor. Could an odor have contributed to the suspicion that led to the 1989 raid of the Rocky Flats plant? Reports of Bigfoot sightings near U.S. military installations have surfaced over the years. At Fort Drum, New York, a civilian worker shared a second-hand account from Army personnel who allegedly encountered a massive, humanoid creature near the Black River while on a run toward Wheeler Sac Army Airfield. The creature was described as towering over the tallest soldier, crossing Fort Drum Road in just 2 steps before vanishing into the woods. Additional reports hint at Bigfoot activity near March Air Force Base in California, as well as Dobbins Air Force Base and Fort Stewart Army Base in Georgia, with witnesses describing strange stick and limb markers in remote areas. These accounts, spanning decades, suggest that such creatures may use the vast, uninhabited spaces around military bases to remain hidden from the public eye. Documented and discussed in various forums and media outlets, they highlight these areas' history of such encounters. While mainstream science still dismisses Bigfoot as myth, these new theories warrant deeper investigation. The combination of Cold War secrecy, biological experimentation, and environmental contamination just 50 miles from this terrifying incident in Rocky Mountain National Park opens the door to more chilling possibilities. What if the creature people have been seeing isn't a relic of the past, but a product of human ambition, hidden in the shadows of history? If you know anything that could link Bigfoot's artificial origins to Cold War-era government experiments, we want to hear your theories. Email us at monstermythtv@gmail.com, and your encounter could be featured on an upcoming episode. Thank you for joining us on this expedition into our enigmatic national parks. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes open. In the wild, you never know what secrets may be lurking, waiting to be unveiled in the great expanse of parks unseen.